Hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to a new episode of the EKN Hot Seat. It's been a long time, August 2023. We recorded the last episode of this show, and it was actually at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati with Randy Kugler, the Ohio native, the former WKA president, and now a go-kart Hall of Fame member, including WKA Hall of Fame member and many other accolades to that. But today, May 12th, 2025, we're actually going to talk with Gavin Bayliff of Trinity Karting Group and the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati and many other aspects within that parent company there. And kind of get to know Gavin and get him a little bit on the hot seat a little bit later in the show and kind of talk about current things. But first off, Gavin, welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to get on here and chat with you.
Yeah. So first off, let's begin by talking about when you began karting yourself, because your family is very much so into the motorsports community.
Yeah. So my dad was always heavily involved in motorsports, and he ran some sports car teams. He did a little bit in IndyCar, and then he pretty much did the whole world of racing. He did the dirt car stuff. I'm sure you could look up his name and find out a little biography about him. But yeah, I started karting. Gosh, I don't even remember when I got my first go-kart. I think I was 5 years old, and that was just to turn laps. We did laps at the local G&J Kartway before we knew anything about the Motorsports Country Club. So yeah, I didn't really start racing until I was probably about 10 years old. Maybe 9. I did some of the local races at G&J, and I was always super timid at the start, though.
But started in a kid kart, actually.
Yeah, I started in a kid kart, just driving.
Yep.
And then my dad got these. He got these WTP 50s from. I think they were from the UK, and they were little pull start engines. I think they were like what Lewis Hamilton and them ran when they started in the karting stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much where I started. And then I did Yamaha, because Yamaha was the big thing back then. So I did that in my actual racing phase.
So that the kind of 5 years or 4 years you just did laps. You just went out and did some laps. Were you involved in anything else, like sports wise? Were you like doing baseball or basketball, or was it that your parents were too busy to kind of focus on your racing?
That was the main thing. They were so focused with the Trinity Motorsports group at the time. Yeah. So they were always constantly doing that. And then we finally kind of went full swing into the karting thing. And I think it was 2011 or 2012 with some of our other customers. We had some clients from our motorsports team that they just wanted to do the karting to turn laps. And we eventually turned it into a full-blown race team.
And that's when you kind of started racing yourself as well too, then.
Yeah. So like, I think a year or two after, my dad's always been big on, if you're not ready, he's not gonna put you into the race yet. So we like to get our drivers trained, and including me at the time, he would rather see me be ready for the racing when it comes.
So you weren't a constant every day telling your dad, I want to go race, Dad, I want to go or Mom, I want to go. What were you doing then between, like, as a youth, like kind of what was your focus back then?
I think my mom tried to get me to play every single sport there was to try and avoid racing. But she, I think in the back of her mind knew there was going to be nothing that would keep me out of racing. So I did, the main sport that I liked that wasn't racing was tennis. That was the only other sport that I really enjoyed. All the other sports, I didn't have constant attention with the ball. So
yeah, do you feel like, well, the tennis is it's a solo sport. You know, you have your teams involved, but when you're a solo player, it's about you. Do you feel that that's kind of your personality, as you like that type of feeling where, like, in a driver's seat, it's just you?
Yeah. I would say that was probably the main reason I like racing and tennis so much, is that I don't, when I fail, it's all on me. It's not necessarily due to someone else's fault. So I like to have that accountability.
What are some of your best memories you have during those first years of karting when you first started racing?
I can tell you some vivid memories. the reason I was so timid at the start was because Finn, my older brother, he ran me up a telephone pole coming out of turn one at G&J, and that kind of spooked me from the very start. So
Well, yeah,
that was kind
yeah.
of my beginning entry to the sport, was getting crashed out.
So you ran into a telephone pole or power pole, probably is what it
Yeah,
is.
I think it was maybe a power pole. Yeah,
Yeah, so
something.
that's not exactly a great memory to have, but it at least got you off. Like, you got your first big wreck out of the way, right?
Yeah, I did. It made me timid for a while, and my dad used to have to bribe me to really pick up the pace. I was always kind of fast, but when I would get behind someone, then I would just sit there and I would follow their line, because that first traumatic experience made me timid on it.
Was there any specific moments or a time period where that kind of went away? That, because I was in the same boat as well too. When I was younger, it took me a while to comprehend that, hey, yeah, you might get hurt, but just forget it and keep going and focus on what you're doing. Was there a moment, or was it just a time lapse of getting more confident behind the wheel?
It was a bit of a time lapse, but I remember the specific moment when I like first made a pass. It was during a practice session at G&J, right before we were debating on racing that weekend, and I was behind a girl on track, and I think there was something in me that just didn't want to get beat by a girl, that made me end up going for that pass. And then it stuck after that. And then when we went into the race weekend at G&J, when you're a beginner in your first races, they make you start in the back. Mm-hmm. So there I had quite a bit of practice trying to come through the field. A couple accidents along the way,
but you learned starting from the back. That's one thing we talked about. Anybody who can be fast on the racetrack, they might not know how to pass, where you see that at a lot of the old school club mentality places where they do put the rookies at the back, so they do learn how to pass. Do you think that was a big benefit for you in your development years?
I think so. I don't think it's a bad thing to do. I think it could be implemented a little better. I think maybe your first race, you have to start at the back, but then you should be able to really work where you qualify. I think that aspect is kind of cool too.
Or the P-pick style, right?
Where the P-pick style was always cool too. I know G&J did that a lot. Yeah, I enjoyed the P-pick style, because then it mixed everything up. Didn't let just one person walk away. Kept the race.
So you did a lot of stuff at G&J, but you also raced over at Newcastle as well too. Talk about kind of the differences from going from G&J to Newcastle, not only atmosphere wise, but racetrack as well, and kind of your development there.
I know we switched over to Newcastle at the end of 2015. I think we did the last 2 KRA races there, and I was always big for junior, so I know back in that day there was junior drivers weren't as small as they are today. There's a lot of really small junior drivers today,
right?
But I was too big for sportsman, so I got a waiver signed that let me race junior. So okay. I did the last 2 races of the season in a junior kart there, racing against my brother, and something clicked there too. That was one of the moments where stuff kind of came together, and I got better as a racer. So yeah, the atmosphere was a bit different. At the time, Newcastle was really the big attraction, because all the national series, well, even still today, they all still go there. But it was just a bit more of a national, regional type feel when you went to Newcastle.
So as you were kind of making your way up the ranks, obviously going from cadet to junior and then eventually into senior racing, what were kind of some of your early goals as a racer yourself? Was it just to keep improving, or did you have like wins and championships set out for you?
I always had championships, but getting those first couple wins was probably the hardest thing. Okay. Everything has to fall together to get a race win. So having those goals was mainly just getting race wins, and then if a championship came to me, I was able to take it.
Did you when you were younger in the cadet and starting junior, did you see yourself like moving up the motorsports ranks? Was that kind of like a long-term goal, or were you like, you know what, I think this karting thing's cool, I want to be like a career karter style?
It's always been so different for me because my parents have owned the team for so long, and
right.
I've always worked in it. I mean, I think I spent more days in the shop than I did on track as a kid. So my dad was always big on making me learn how to work on my own stuff. So from the time I was 12, I've been my own mechanic pretty much at every race. Now I've got mechanics that I've trained and people that I trust, but a lot of those aspirations to race in something bigger came a little bit later.
Okay.
In my career. Karting was always kind of the main focus and still is today.
So mostly it's a hobby. It was obviously part of the race team program, but also learning as well too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Very much so.
Over the years, you've been on different brands. Talk about all the different brands that you've kind of been on. I believe you guys started back with Margay.
Yeah. Yeah. We started with Margay. My first 3 or 4 karts were Margay karts when I was in kid kart, junior, and rookie. They were all Margay karts. But then we're on the Burrell brand now, but we were actually on the Burrell Motorsport brand back in 2014. So we've been on and off with the Burrell brand quite a few times, 2014, 2017, and current day.
Yeah, you've seen a touch of red in the shop once in a while.
Yeah, every now and then.
Yeah, and then the Kart Republic. Talk about kind of that transition going from different brands. Is it a different driving style, or are you able, because you said you've worked as a mechanic yourself, you understand what changes you need to make in order to adapt to how you drive?
Yeah, I am a personal believer that all kart brands that are currently made can win. All the major kart brands can win. So to me, it all falls down to the driver and the engine program. I think all the main chassis brands can win with the correct engineering. But there's no real difference in the driving style. I think the main thing is you have to be smooth with all the karts. You can't be sliding around in any of them. So transitioning from the Kart Republic brand to the Burrell Art brand, it really hasn't been much other than just logistical work in the shop. I've been working my tail off all since November when we announced the switch. We're at 31 karts built now, and I know I've touched every single one of them.
On the way to 100 or more, right?
Yeah, exactly. The shop is pretty much at max capacity right now.
We pause this show for a quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network. For over 90 years, DID has been the leading manufacturer for high-quality on- and off-road chain use. DID has been chosen by the top powersport athletes from all over the world and is continuing to grow every day. From the karting track or your off-road adventures to your long street bike trips, DID has a chain to fit your needs. Their kart chain lineup offers variations of chains from high-performance sealed chains to the industry-leading non-sealed 219 HTZ chain. The DID SDH pin treatment is the unique design that allows for a lighter chain for less rotational mass, while still keeping a high tensile strength for peak performance. If you're in the need for a high-quality chain, DID has a chain for all makes and models. With our cutting-edge chain lineup, take your ride to the next level with DID. Visit didchain.com to find a dealer near you.
Welcome to AIM Sports and the groundbreaking Micron 6 karting data logger. Since its inception, AIM Sports has been at the forefront of motorsport technology, revolutionizing how racers gather data. From its early days, AIM has tailored its innovations to provide precise insights, allowing racers to fine-tune their strategies and push their limits. Fast forward to today, and we're excited to celebrate 30 years of Micron by introducing the latest evolution in karting data loggers, the Micron 6. Designed with cutting-edge features, including 25 Hz GPS with mil-spec precision, a 6-axis inertial platform, shift lights and alarms, temperature inputs, and a host of wired and wireless expansions. With 2 CAN buses, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi, it's perfect for karting enthusiasts looking to enhance their game on the track. With its advanced suite of sensors, high-speed data acquisition, and easy-to-use interface, the Micron 6 delivers unparalleled performance on track. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this powerful tool helps you analyze every turn, every lap, even every heartbeat. Imagine a tool that not only records your lap times, but also analyzes parameters like speed, tire temperature, driver inputs, and engine performance. With the Micron 6, you'll gain insights that can shave seconds off your times and elevate your skills behind the wheel. Don't just drive, be data-driven. Join the AIM Sports community today and equip yourself with the Micron 6 to take your karting experience to the next level. Visit aimsports.com to learn more. AIM Sports, 30 years of Micron.
Thank you for listening to the EKN Radio Network. We now join the show already in progress.
That's good. That's great to hear. Let's go back to your driving. If I'm correct, it looks like you first began racing in shifters back in 2019. What led you to moving into the shifter kart ranks?
I've got a photo of it, but my dad, he's crazy. I mean, a lot of people.
We all know that.
He's a little crazy, but he put me in a shifter kart when I was 11. We built up an old CRG Road Rebel that one of the members at the club lent to us to see us kind of step up in the karting world, and they always enjoyed seeing such a small kid in a shifter. So I was racing. It was an ICC on a Road Rebel. At 11 years old. I was turning laps on it at the club. So I've kind of always been stepping my foot into the shifter stuff. I enjoy mechanically working on it. I think it's the highest tier that you can go mechanically and driving wise. So yeah, I didn't really start racing it until 2019. I think I did one KRA race in the stock Honda class on a Tony kart. And I got second in my first race after stalling on the start and going all the way back to last. So that really sparked my interest in wanting to continue racing the shifter stuff. And I did on and off from 2019 to now, just because shifter karts don't exactly sell karts, but they're the coolest thing that you can race. And I went from single speed a lot to the shifter stuff. So I was always bouncing.
And you've been in it during a time where we've seen a lot of engine fluctuation. There was the 175 with Supercard 2SA. You mentioned the stock moto as well too. A lot of people jumped on the Rock program as well, and now we're full KZ. Do you think that was kind of the hurting factor of shifter kart racing? Why people weren't the kart shops weren't able to sell karts because you didn't know which engine you were going to run?
That is 100% the case. I know me and my dad were always in a debate because something was always changing. I always wanted to run KZ, but at the time in 2019, 2020, the 175 program was taken over. So I stepped foot into that a little bit. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as I enjoyed driving the KZs. And there was always just so much fluctuation. So I could never really stick to a package and try and develop myself. And now we're seeing 45 entries at a SCUSA race. I think that the KZ category is really good, and that's going to be where it sticks for a long time, hopefully forever.
And you talked about you've been working in the shop. You not only work on the kart, but you work engine wise too. And you were one of the few people running the IME last year when you were on the Kart Republic. Talk about how you worked on engine development. Like, when did that begin, and how far along have you come since the beginning of that?
Right. Currently, Dominic is doing my motors.
Right.
Dominic
Yes.
ESL. Yeah. So that's been a weight lifted off my shoulders, which is good because I've already got enough on my plate, and he does such great work. But just everyone in the shifter category is so open to talk, and the guys at IAME were great to work with. They were helping us with some of the cylinder development, and then I was doing all the carb tuning and assembly and the bottom end rebuilds myself. So it was a lot to take on, considering I don't have a lot of experience with that, just stuff I've been tinkering with. And it was a big development, a big learning curve. But I think by the end of the season, it made me a better driver and have a better understanding to what the engine needs, more so than like if it's a card issue.
Yeah. Were you working on like single speed stuff beforehand and then you moved into the shifter stuff? Like, did you start last year developing shifter engines, or was it how kind of a process over the last couple of years of doing engine work?
I pretty much just jumped straight into it with the shifter stuff. I watch, we have an in-house engine guy. His name's Jarrett Thompson. He's one of our main guys. And I watched him work quite a bit and just kind of saw some of the things he was doing and asked him questions, because he went to a technical college for it.
Okay.
So I was able to bounce ideas off with him and get some knowledge on stuff that I needed to learn in terms of assembly. But yeah, I never really trained myself to do the engine stuff. I kind of just jumped straight into it and went as I go.
Does that give you more confidence, not only for yourself at the racetrack, but also working with others, that you kind of know the ins and outs of engines a little bit more, but you've also been working over a decade on chassis as well too, and developing and tuning those as well too. Do you feel all that experience combined gives you more confidence going forward?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably one of the main steps I have over a lot of drivers, is my understanding of a go-kart with the engines now, and the ability to diagnose a problem with the chassis or an improvement that we can make with the chassis. I did a lot of that in the single speed stuff, and now I've been doing a ton of it in the shifter. Last year with the Kart Republic brand, there was no one else that was on that chassis other than a select few, and we were able to get it up front quite a few times. And I think that shows my ability to be able to understand and develop a chassis. So yeah, I've got quite a bit of confidence with my ability to develop something.
You finished last year 11th in the SuperCard USA Pro Tour standings, that one spot away from getting the full season for 2025. Talk about kind of the emotions about that, because as you said, you put all yourself all in on this program, again, all by yourself, no other teammates. You occasionally, I think, had Sam Dicker there as well as you. Was it one of, all right, I just need to do better, or was it kind of a disappointing end to the year last year?
I think it ended up being slightly disappointing, because I ended up the Summer Nats race, Sam, unintentionally, no hate to Sam at all, I love the guy, got tangled up with another driver, and then he ended up getting tangled up with me. So it was unfortunate, but finishing 11th in that championship didn't show the pace that we had all season and the improvements that we had made. So it gave me a lot of confidence, knowing in November that we were going to be on a brand of chassis and a brand of engine that has been well known in the shifter category for taking victories. It won the championship. So gave me a lot of confidence to be able to go into the season knowing that I don't have any excuses. The only excuse would be come down to me.
Yeah, putting it all on yourself. And you went to Orlando. I believe those were the first weekends that you were on the kart. I don't think there was any testing at home in Ohio with the weather,
unfortunately.
Yeah. So what was kind of your mindset the first weekend in Orlando to the second weekend? Because the first weekend's about learning and understanding, to where I'm sure you were kind of more diving into more specifics in the second weekend.
Yeah, the first weekend was, for sure, like you said, a lot of just learning, understanding, making small changes, seeing what each thing does with the chassis, and just getting more comfortable. I mean, there's definitely some differences between the chassis that were a bit harder to develop. On the Kart Republic, we don't run any seat struts, but on the Brawl, we run seat struts. So that that makes a huge handling difference in the way that the cart feels. So the first weekend being ice cold on the track too, it was definitely a bit more of a struggle. I had pace, but I didn't quite understand what was going on. And I think I learned quite a bit more at the second round. And yeah, I think just being able to have this season to really develop, not put too much pressure on myself, know that we're on a new brand, but we do also need to perform. It's a lot to take in, but I think there's a lot of improvements still to come.
What's it like? You had Danny Formal racing, but you also Mateus Morgado, the official driver for PSL karting, and then the other drivers that are there as well too. What's it like? What was it like working with them in Orlando to kind of do feedback and debrief over sessions and figuring out what works for them and if it works for you?
Yeah. Working with Danny was great. Working with Mateus is always great. We all got along really well in Orlando, and me and Mateus get along well at every single race. So having those teammates that are so close to you, but also a little bit better, have more experience, have more that they've proven, it puts a little bit more pressure on you. But at the same time, it's good to have those people to know that you can compare, and it's all up to me to be better. I can review their data. Nothing's being hidden. So I can compare myself to them and make improvements throughout the weekend. And it's good. They trust me too in my feedback. So we can always be learning as a team and improve all of us.
Well, so what was the difference between Orlando to Texas? Obviously you had more time on the cart and the engine package, but there was a little bit that you were missing in Orlando, to where in Texas, you were right there. You were with Morgado. You were even quicker than Morgado at times, especially during the main event. What was the difference?
There was quite a bit that I learned at the final round of the Winter Series, just in terms of my driving style and how I need to develop it. And yeah, going into Texas, I just had a completely new mindset of how I was going to approach a race weekend, having such good teammates and having such good equipment, that I was able to just clear my mind and really focus on what I was doing and how I was going to step about in the weekend and make changes. I knew consistency was the main thing that I needed to focus on.
Yeah, getting through the 3 heat races, or was I 2 heat races in a pre-final? I can remember how the pro show works now.
It was 2 heat races Saturday, pre-final, final Sunday.
There we go. So up front, Billy Musgrave, one of the more veteran drivers we have on the field. Did you have a game plan going into that main event when it was just you two up front?
We all kind of got in a shamble in the pre-final, because
that's right.
We finished the pre-final and I think I finished third. Adrian Renathon finished second, and then Billy finished first. So we kind of thought that was how we lined up for the final, but it was all points based.
Right.
So when we got to the grid and they told me I was starting on the pole, all the thoughts left my mind. I was really confused. I was like, okay, no pressure, but here's a lot of pressure. I preferred to start on the pole compared to third, but I was not expecting it. So I didn't end up having a game plan going into it, other than I knew that I had pace.
We pause this show for a quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network. What brand is known around the world for its innovation and success? It is SodiCart. The Sodi brand returned in full force during the 2023 season thanks to the new exclusive importer, the Karting Distribution, led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer SodiCart is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from mini karts to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Sodi Racing USA has expanded its dealer network over the last year, bringing the Sodi brand to several local clubs and regional programs. The Sodi Racing USA by PK Sports is the official race team, producing many victories in different levels across the board. And the new Pro Race Academy is designed to cater to the next generation of motor racing, helping boys and girls aiming to make their mark. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about Sodi kart chassis or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Sodi Kart, the world leader in the karting industry. Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 chassis with a Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and the Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the rookie, junior, senior, heavy, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for the season include the Ignite Majors that begin with the annual trip to the Daytona International Speedway as part of the WKA Daytona Kart Week, running in both the sprint and road racing events. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the regionally based Ignite Challenge, featuring 5 iconic facilities. Local club programs have also been established in states all across the country, Idaho to Texas, Nebraska to New York, with more tracks and clubs joining the Ignite Karting program. Be part of fast, fun, and great memories with Margay Racing at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and onto the track this year. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. Thank you for listening to the EKN Radio Network. We now join the show already in progress.
So the pace was there. Obviously, you and Billy were able to get away, and then the infamous bump and run at the end of the race there. Tell us your viewpoint now that we're kind of more than a month away from it, and you've had time to kind of digest it. You've talked it over with several people, I assume. Yeah. What's your viewpoint on it? Do you feel like, he would have done the same? Do you feel like that was the move you had to make because everywhere else was so tough to pass?
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. That track was probably one of the toughest I've ever had to make moves on. And me and Billy were just the slightest bit different on the gear ratio that I couldn't make a move on him in any other corner. That was my last ditch effort. And it was either I went home mad at myself for not being able to take the win in that race, or I went home with Billy a little bit mad at me. And I was willing to go home with Billy a little bit mad at me than for me to come finish in second.
What has there been any chatter on social media or at the racetrack between drivers, now that we're away, but between then and now, or do you think there's going to be a little bit more going into the Spring Nationals?
I'm excited for the Spring Nationals. I think it's definitely going to be a show. I plan to talk to Billy and maybe give him a nice bump and run t-shirt when I see him. But no, there hasn't been much talk with other drivers. I think everyone says to me that they would have done the same thing. And it's just part of racing. But I don't think there's any hard feelings between me and Billy. I'm fully expecting for Billy to give it back to me at some point. I mean, I don't know how it's going to work, but I think I'm fully expecting it. I'm ready to race just as hard as I did then.
So you do the single speed stuff. You just did KA at the USBKS weekend at Trackhouse. Did you weld the chassis, or was that your dad that did that?
My dad welded that one. That one was not good. But
no, that was not good. That was not a good moment. But going back and forth, are you able to take anything you learned from the shifter side and bring it to the single speed, or vice versa, from the single speed to the shifter?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that you can take from both classes and apply it to one another. You have to roll a lot more speed in the single speed classes. I think sometimes depending on the track, you need to implement that into the shifter stuff. because you can't always stop and go in those things when there's high speed corners. But then, yeah, you get a little bit used to the racing and shifter with a little bit more respect, but you kind of have to go elbows out in the single speed stuff. There's not a whole lot that applies from shifter to the single speed stuff other than just the aggression and the understanding of the chassis. When you're racing the shifter stuff, there's a lot more going on, and you still have to try and understand the chassis. So when you go to the single speed stuff, it's a little bit slower, a little bit more calm. You can really focus on understanding the chassis and understanding what improvements you need to make.
Do you feel like with the pushback bumper, a bump and run is a little bit more difficult to do? Say like the hairpin and Trackhouse, like a lot of people go defensive in that corner where if you do a bump and run, you have the ability to get underneath and get around.
Yeah, there was a lot of debate on that, whether I would have gotten a pushback with the move that I did with Billy. And I personally don't believe that I would have. I was on him in the braking zone. And I think if you come in and you smash Billy, which I did not do, I would have gotten a full pushback, and then that would have been a penalty. But you can go in on the brakes and get someone a little bit upset enough to go underneath of them without really screwing both drivers up and causing a penalty.
It's a finesse move because, as you said, you didn't come through and blast him like you typically see at starts where drivers are coming from 3 karts deep and trying to make a move. You, as you said, you kind of got underneath the bumper a little bit and kind of moved him out of the way rather than pushing him off the racetrack. So it's more, it's an ice skating move or something.
It is. It's definitely a finesse, and it's not something. I think with the blocking that goes on now, I don't think it's something that should be penalized, in which Scusa didn't think it was either.
Right.
So, in my opinion, there's no way to get around someone that's blocking without a potential crash other than slightly moving them up the line and getting underneath of them. I think it's a move that has to be done. You can't waste that much time.
It's a safer move rather than the side swerving or
exactly.
or pre-blocking when you're looking behind you.
Yeah. I'm the biggest hater of the swerve. I can't stand that move. It's happened to me so many times, and that is the most childish way of racing I've ever encountered.
Yeah, it's tough with the pushback because, again, we've been through this for the many years now with it saves and the starts. We've seen starts and all these categories, especially at Trackhouse where we had 51 junior drivers.
Yeah,
everybody made it through the opening laps, but then it tends to that defensive style of driving. And would you like to see no pushback bumpers in single speed, at least for the senior level type of racing?
I think maybe you could implement it a little bit into the pro levels, but I prefer to see the pushback in the racing, because I think that it should be a driver's responsibility to protect their nose cone.
Okay.
In a sense, I've been in a couple arguments lately about the new bumpers being as stiff as they are and pushing back easier. But when I've raced KA and when I've raced anything in the single speed category, I come out of the weekend having no pushback penalties in the scale line. And that's because I protect my bumper. I give enough room on the start where I'm not going to slam into the guy in front of me and potentially crash. I think that's how most of the crashes come about, is a lot of these kids try and do the bump and run, but they end up just smashing the guy off the end of the track, not with any finesse or any skill. So I prefer the pushback. I think it's good for these guys to try and have that challenge of keeping their nose clean. I would honestly like to see the protest be ridden of getting your pushback cleared on the start. I think it's a driver's responsibility to keep that pushback intact.
So it's very similar to FIA, where you get a pushback, it's a penalty no matter what happens.
Yeah. Okay. I 100% think that. I don't think that the officials should be having to watch your whole video after a start and see if you used it as a battering rod the whole rest of the race or not. I think that if you get a pushback at the start, you got to take your lick and take the penalty.
Yeah, that's a culture thing where we keep talking about responsibility in terms of drivers being clean and keeping their nose where they shouldn't. So that's maybe another podcast for another time. But looking into I guess next weekend we're going to be down at Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, your home racetrack. First off, talk about the revisions made to the safety aspect for the racetrack and kind of the conditions of the racetrack after another winter.
After another winter, the track is holding up good. It's very similar to how it was last year. There's no grip on it currently, so this test weekend I hope that the grip starts going back down. But there's no real rough patches or anything, not any rougher than it was last year. But we did the safety aspect in turn one. We moved the whole pit lane back. So the pit lanes, there's probably 40 feet between the pit lane and the exit of the track in turn one now. And then the rest is just grass in between that. But we did our first round of the Pro-Am series, and there was no bad accidents or anything. All the testing we've done, all the members coming out, seems to be a lot safer. We've had no issues with it so far, and I think it's going to be really good to see SCUSA come here and put it to the test, see if it holds up. I think it will.
Yeah, certainly that was the weekend where we had a number of incidents in turn one. So it looks, looking at the pictures and everything online, it looks to be a lot better than what it was. And again, it's very tough because the racetrack wasn't designed for racing to begin with. It was just a circuit made for doing laps, very similar to what you did in the kid karts, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was originally made, I think the track was built in around 2007 for I think it was Porsche Club of North America. Yep. And there was a lot of guys that just wanted to come out and spend a little bit less money to get the same thrill.
Yeah.
So it was definitely designed to just be a driver's track, not a racing track. But it's been good to see it over the past couple of years since I've lived here become a racing track. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, you guys have done a lot of work and put a lot of effort into making it what it is today. So we're very excited to get back. For your aspect, it's your home racetrack. You know this racetrack very well. What are your thoughts and kind of goals for the weekend coming off victory at the Winter Nationals?
I've unfortunately had about as bad of luck as I can get when it comes to racing at home. And I think it was 2022 at the Stars Championship Series. It was a 3-way fight for the championship between me, Chase Jones, and Connor Ferris. And I was leading the race, and Finn was right behind me, so I had a pretty decent buffer. And I had to win. Chase had to come second or lower. There was a whole statistic on it. But I ended up rear bumper bolt broke, and I ended up getting black flagged and having to pull in. I remember there was a lot of tears flowing that day. That's how I lost my first real championship contention at home track. Mm-hmm. And then something happened with the motor. The past 2 years I've ran shifter. It always happens in the pre-final, luckily. I'm able to work my way back up in the final, but I've never been able to take a real national victory at home base. So I've got a little bit of pressure to do that this weekend or next weekend, but I think that's the ultimate goal, to do donuts on the start finish line.
It'd be probably a very emotional victory for you and the family and everybody under the Trinity Karting Group. So we wish you best of luck. But last question before we head off. What is the future for Gavin Bayliff? Where do you see yourself in 5 years and 10 years?
I love what I do right now. So if I'm here in 5 years, I'm perfectly content with it. But I've got aspirations to race in anything, sports car, Indy car, anything that I can get my foot into. It's just all about those opportunities, and I sure hope they come. But yeah, I would also love to see go-karting become a professional motorsport. I think that it's got the entertainment status to become a professional motorsport. And I think that we're at the stepping grounds to making that happen. So if I'm here in 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, I'm perfectly content with it. And I would love to race go-karts as my profession.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Gavin, for joining me on the hot seat as we wrap up our episode number. I forgot to write down the episode number. Episode number 9. There it is. So yeah, we'll see you next weekend. And again, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This was great.